Hey, it's Kevin Phinney with Elton John on the cover of Rolling Stone in a piece called Elton John Remembers. This, of course, done in the tradition of stories that date back to 1970 when Jann Wenner, the then editor and, of course, the founder of Rolling Stone, did a series of interviews with John Lennon right after the Beatles had broken up and while Lennon was still in primal scream therapy. Very intense stuff, very much in depth, and very much a bargain between the two of them in terms of trust. One of them, Jann Wenner, after the story of what he thought might be the story of his lifetime, and John Lennon, a very trusting and open soul, and sort of an open wound, really, at the time. So it was a great piece of journalism, and not only a watershed in terms of what Rolling Stone was able to accomplish with rock journalism, but also a benchmark for celebrity coverage as well. Because what it meant was that you could actually interview a celebrity about anything at all, including their most personal habits like drugs, and their most wide-ranging views, having to do with everything from politics to women's rights and things of that nature. So it's a big deal. This piece is not by Jann Wenner. This is actually by Austin Skaggs. Fine as a piece of writing, although there isn't a lot of writing to it. It's mostly Q&A. So what's wrong with this piece? Well, what's wrong with this piece is that it basically skims the surface. Whose fault is that? Well, it's either Austin Skaggs' fault, or it's Rolling Stone's fault, or it's Elton's people's fault, or Elton's fault himself. So it's a superficial piece, basically focusing on two things. One of them is Elton's baby, which is fine, with David Furnish, his husband. The other is the current album that he has out with Leon Russell. And Elton has been reverentially attached to Leon for decades now. But it's not really the source of public's interest, I think. It just may be what Elton's people were pushing. So these things have a way of becoming a bargain in a way that those original interviews with Lennon and Jann Wenner were not, because they didn't really know what they had or what they could use as bargaining tools. What is there is actually some tantalizing tidbits, but again, they skim the surface. You find out that Neil Young once played all of After the Gold Rush for Elton on a piano at 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, that's okay, but it doesn't tell us how he felt about it, or why it was important or significant, or the nature of their friendship, for that matter. Then there's another story a little bit later that gets recounted about Elton being at George Harrison's house at sunrise and going a little heavy on the booger sugar, and George warning him off of that, and Elton requesting that since the sun was rising, well, would you go ahead and play Here Comes the Sun? Well, George did, which is nice, but again, lacking in insight, my friends. In fact, lacking in what is called the telling detail. And this is a term that was handed off to me by a really amazing guy named Sam Andrew, who used to be the guitarist, the lead guitarist in Big Brother and the Holding Company. And he not only shared the stage, but heroin kit with Janis Joplin, the lead singer of that band. So I picked up Sam for an interview at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, which was something of a surprise to me that a rocker would be up at that time of day, because he's still playing. Anyway, we get to a coffee shop, and he sits down, I turn on the recorder, and he says, "I know what you want." And I said, what would that be? He said, "You want the telling detail." I said, what do you mean? He says, well, the telling detail to me is that thing that nobody else has gotten, journalistically, that puts you in the room with the artist, that really sets the piece apart from other pieces. You're absolutely right, Sam, you're absolutely right. That's what you want. That's what this is lacking, and why people will still be turning to, for years from now, returning to Lennon Remembers and Mick Jagger Remembers, another piece about 5 years ago recorded by Jann Wenner and in the pages of Rolling Stone. So, buy it for fun, read it for amusement, but if you're looking for rock and roll history or something to as a keepsake, keep looking, because the definitive interview with Elton John has yet to be done. I'm Kevin Phinney. Have a great day.